Hey guys, thanks for joining us here at Salty Ginger Talk. If you are a returning listener, it is great to have you back. If you're new to the channel, we're glad that you joined us and we hope you like what you hear. So, our podcast is for people that want to learn something new or make themselves a little bit better every day. We tend to focus on personal accountability, controlling what we have control over, not worrying about other things, controlling our emotions, making fact based, left brain logical decisions, and trying to make the world a better place by the way we interact with people and the leadership that we show. So, talk about a lot of different things, but we tend to focus on those things because they have kind of overarching impact on our lives. And if we can take that approach in most areas of our lives, we can generally create a life that we're happy with. And that's what we're looking for. So, today's episode, we're going to talk about, and we're going to give you 10 phrases that you can use to de-escalate conflict. Now, this can be conflict anywhere. It can be in passing conversations with people on the street. It can be with people that are in your family. It can be with people at work. It can be anywhere, anytime. As we all know, there are subjects and some people who tend to be a little more animated, a little more emotional, a little more conflict driven than others. And if you want to be successful in life, you need to learn how to deal with those people, and you need to learn how to do it in a way that is productive or constructive, not destructive. So that's what we want to focus on, and that's an approach we take in most conversations. And look, our natural state is pretty combative. So I'm super Irish. I don't drink at all, so I fight twice as much to make up for it, because that's what us Irish people do. We drink and we fight. It's kind of in the DNA. But what I've learned over the years is it's not a very productive approach. It will help you win a particular situation, sure, sometimes. And is it necessary to be ready to be combative or rise to conflict when it happens? Sure, sometimes. Sometimes you have to stand up for yourself. Sometimes there's no other choice but to kind of duke it out, because that's what the person or the party that you're dealing with is doing in the moment. But with that said, we strongly advocate that part of our job as leaders, part of our job as taking control over what we do have control over, is controlling how we react in these situations when conflict happens. So we're going to give you phrases and examples of how to use these phrases and why they work, so that you can incorporate them into your repertoire and you can use them to be successful when you're dealing with people, especially when things are heated, when things are tense, when you're in conflict. This is a good way to kind of bring the temperature in the room down a little bit, to bring the discourse back to facts, to bring the discourse back to solutions, which is where we want to be in most situations, almost every situation. So that's it. That's what we're going to do today, guys. So let's hop into it. We've used all of these. We know they work. That's why we're sharing them with you. And let's just jump into it, and we can go through these examples so you can get to using these things and making your life better. So number one, I see your point. Here's what I see differently. And let's take a step back before we dive too far into that one. We want to be calm. We want to be rational. We want the inflection of our voice to be steady. We don't want to raise our voice. We don't want to talk higher, more decibels. We don't want to take the pitch of our voice up or down in general. If you're going to do anything, take it down a little bit because it's more calming. But remember, we're in a situation where there's conflict here, and we're trying to de-escalate that conflict and bring the conversation back to a point where we can have a successful conversation. So I see your point. Someone has just explained something to you that you don't necessarily agree with. So one response is, well, that's fucking stupid. Not a good response. That's going to probably create more conflict, not less. So I see your point. Here's what I see differently. You want to say it in a measured, unemotional, very straightforward way, like I just said it right now. I see your point. Here's what I see differently. What you've done is you've acknowledged that you heard what they just said. And in fact, you can say, I see your point, and then repeat or parrot their point back to them, just to make sure when they hear you say it, just to make sure that you understood exactly what they were driving at. So I see your point. X, repeat X that they just said to you. Here's what I see differently, and then give them your argument, your point, your perspective, your point of view, so that they consider that as well. That will work because you've acknowledged that you heard what they said, and you're presenting them with information for them to consider. Almost every reasonable person will respond well to a comment like that. And so that's why it works. That's a good way to go when someone said something and you're not aligned with it, but you want to acknowledge what they said. And it doesn't matter if you completely disagree with what they said. That's okay. You don't have to foist your moral outrage onto a person. You can hear what they said without acknowledging it, without validating it, and without agreeing with it. So I shouldn't say acknowledging it because you actually want to acknowledge it. But you don't have to validate it. You don't have to agree with it. You can just acknowledge what they said. That's all you're doing here. So I see your point. Here's what I see differently. So that's a good one. Number two, next one we have is help me understand why. So when you're trying to get information out of a person and you're trying to understand why they see things the way that they see them. Let's pick something easy, but it can lead to lots of heated conversation. So if you're arguing about a particular sport, and you're advocating that one team or one player is better than the other person's team or other person's player, you can say, help me understand why you think this is the best team in the league or why you think this is the best player in the league. And then shut up. Let them talk. Just let them talk. And again, unemotional, level. Don't raise or lower your voice. Don't change the inflection of your voice. Help me understand why. That's a great way to get people to give information and engage in conversation without it leading to conflict. Or if it's already in conflict, that will help de-escalate a little bit because you're pivoting to facts. It's not emotional. It's facts. That's what you're asking for. Help me understand it. Give me your perspective. Tell me what you're thinking. Okay? So that's number two. Number three, let's focus on finding a solution, not assigning blame. Now, this one's super important because most people, when they're in an argument, they want to be right. They don't want to be successful. They want to be right. And one of our statements that we make a lot is there's many times in life where you have to choose if you want to be right or if you want to be successful. And we would argue that unless it's a moral thing, and look, moral is different to everybody. You could just kick a real hornet's nest if you started talking about, there's lots of controversial topics, abortion, transgender issues, right? So some people argue that it's a moral imperative that men who think they're women be recognized as such. Might be true, might not be true. But our point in a conversation like that would be, how do we get to a solution where we can live together in a productive way? Because we can do that. We can do that, but we have to focus on the solution, not on winning the argument. And that's what you're trying to achieve with this phrase. Let's focus on finding a solution, not assigning blame. It also de-escalates because it shows the other person that you're acting in good faith and you're not trying to assign blame to them. You just want to get to a solution. That's all I care about. Let's find a solution. That's all that matters. And if you do that in a straightforward, fact-based, unemotional way, that will de-escalate situations when you're in them. So we use that one quite a bit. Next, I had not thought of it that way before. So this is a great way of acknowledging that you heard what someone said. You're not validating it. You're not agreeing with it, but you're acknowledging that you heard what they said and that it's a point or a perspective that you had not considered previously. That's a great way to really bring someone in and build trust with the person that you're talking to because they feel like, oh, you're listening to me. You're actually listening to what I'm saying and you're actually considering my point of view. And just by making that statement, again, we haven't agreed with anything. We haven't validated anything. We haven't said you're right. We haven't said I was wrong. We haven't said any of those things. All we're saying is I'd not thought of it that way before. So if someone brings up a point, this is a good one to use even if you have thought of that particular point or issue. You don't need to prove how smart you are by saying, well, I already thought of that. Why not just say, I hadn't thought of it that way before? And that allows them to feel heard It engages them in the conversation. It builds trust between you and the other person because you're listening to them. It's a great way to acknowledge a statement without agreeing with or validating a statement. So we like that one a lot as well. Number 5, let's take a step back for a second. Let's just say that you've been going back and forth. Let's say you're in a negotiation and you've reached an issue on or reached loggerheads at 2 issues and you can't get past those 2 issues. That would be a good time to say, you know what? Let's take a step back for a second. And you could recap, hey, we've agreed on these 8 issues. That's good. We've made progress. We just got these 2 left. Let's take a step back for a second and see if there might be some other way to think about this, some other way to talk about this that will allow us to get these 2 into the win column and put this thing to bed. But what it does is it pumps the brake, it slows everything down, it gives everybody a chance to take a breath, to grab a drink, to go for a walk, whatever. And it allows you to just hit the pause button. Let's just hit the pause button. Let's take a step back for a second. It's a great phrase to use to de-escalate conflict, especially when it is starting to rise or has already risen and you're trying to bring it back down. Let's just take a step back for a second. Next, number 6. I don't have all the answers, but here's what I'm thinking. This is a good one because it allows the person to what it does. So I shouldn't say it allows. It makes the other person think, hey, he's not telling me what to do. He's not telling me how it's going to be. He's offering a potential solution. And so it doesn't feel like you're cramming it down their throat. It doesn't feel like you're hitting them over the head with it. It doesn't feel like you're saying it's my way or the highway, because you're not saying it's my way or the highway. You might be thinking that, but you don't have to express that out loud. I don't have all the answers, but here's what I'm thinking. And then you can make your point, make your argument, provide your opinion, whatever the case may be. I don't have all the answers, but maybe this is a solution. That's a good way to go. And again, it allows engagement, it builds trust, it builds rapport, and it's something that really works well, especially when you're having kind of a back and forth or a tense conversation with people. Number 7, I think we both want the same thing here. This is a great way to go to kind of reframe. You're not arguing with the other person trying to be right. You actually both want the same thing. You may see a different path and you may disagree on the path that you should take to get to the solution that you're both looking for. But by saying it that way, I think we both want the same thing here. It refocuses it. I use this a lot when people are heated in like a gun control argument. So nobody, and I mean nobody, wants innocent people to be killed by guns. Nobody's happy about school shootings. Nobody's happy about crime committed by guns. Nobody. Even staunch Second Amendment supporters don't want those things to happen. The difference here is what people think the solution is. But if you keep in mind that you both have the same end goal, that you both want the same thing, it allows for more productive and constructive conversations versus, well, you just don't care about children. If you don't want gun control, you don't care about children. You know that's not true. It's inflammatory, it's divisive, it's not helpful. And instead of saying that, I think we both want the same thing here. I don't understand how your way would get us there. Maybe you could elaborate on that a little more. So we both want the same thing here is a great way to approach difficult conversations to bring the conflict level down. Number 8, let's agree to revisit this later after we've had some time to process. Don't say cool off, say process. And when you've really kind of exhausted all of your options, when you really feel like this particular conversation at this particular time with this particular person isn't going anywhere, sometimes it's best to put a pin in it and revisit it after people have had a chance to think through things a little bit, to take a walk, to get a drink, to relax, to do whatever, to take their temperature down a little bit. But by agreeing to revisit it later, you're not agreeing to anything. You're not acquiescing to anything. You're not giving in. You're not saying you're right, I was wrong. You're not saying you agree with them. You're simply saying it doesn't feel like we're going to make progress here. Let's revisit this at a later date or time or point when we feel like we've got a better chance of making progress. So that's a great way to go, to just kind of calm everything down, put a pin in it. Let's all go our separate ways for a bit. Let's think through this, and then let's come back and try it again. Try to get to a solution on whatever the topic is that you're talking about. Okay, number 9, I respect your opinion even if it's different than mine. This is a great way to acknowledge, again, these are, when you think about them, most of these things are acknowledging what the other person says without validating it, without agreeing with it, without saying, I was wrong, you were right, but it allows them to feel heard. And it builds rapport between you and the party that you're talking with. So I respect your opinion, even if it's different than mine. Completely valid. I understand where you're coming from. I might not see it that way, but I understand why you do, and I'm good with it. No problems. You're entitled to your opinion. You're entitled to to express your opinion, and I want you to be able to express your opinion. Doesn't mean I agree with it, but I get it. That's a great phrase to use that really builds trust and rapport with the other party and will de-escalate the conflict level of any conversation. Number 10, what would make you feel better about this? So that's a good one because it allows them to be able to surface some of their thoughts or ideas for a potential solution to whatever the issue is you're talking or in conflict with this person about. So again, you don't have to agree to it. You don't have to validate it. You simply have to acknowledge it and give them the opportunity to express what their solution is. That might make them feel better. And they might say something crazy. And if they say something crazy, you can respond with something like, well, I hadn't thought about that. I need to process it a little bit. Or if you're just certain as a no, there's no way you're going to be able to do or acquiesce to whatever it is they just said. Another way to say that without saying no, because no is very final. When you say no to someone, they think it's over. They think there's no further conversation. And that's really not what you want in most instances. You want continued conversation so you can get to a solution. So instead of saying that, you can say something like, I'm not sure how I can make that work. Tell me how I can make that work. That's a good way to kind of ask another question and let them talk even more. So you have time to process, and it gives them a chance to feel like you're really listening to them and you're really considering what they had to say. What would make you feel better about this? So again, like I just said it, not what would make you feel better about this, right? That's not the way to deliver it. Calm, rational, unemotional, no change of inflection in the voice, no change in pitch. What would make you feel better about this? That's a very welcoming, open, non-confrontational way to give people a chance to express their thoughts. So those are our 10 phrases, guys. Like we said, we've negotiated thousands and thousands of things. So we've had jobs that were primarily negotiation, and we've tried all sorts of different tactics. These are things that work for us. These are things that build rapport. These are things that allow you to have challenging conversations, but still have a good relationship with the person on the other side of that conversation. Because if you just go scorched earth, it's not going to go well for you most of the time. Most of the time, when you practice zero sum, somebody wins, somebody loses. I get everything, you get nothing. That's transactional, and that's not a way to develop a long-term relationship. So these are great things to use with people you care about, personal relationships, with customers that are important to you, with vendors that are important to you, where you still need to get what you need, but you're going to have to work with these people or be around these people, or you want to work with these people or want to be around these people for a long time. These are 10 great phrases to use to manage through those more challenging conversations when they come up. And they always come up, right? So it's good to be prepared for them. It's good to be able to have go-to phrases that you can use to manage those conversations appropriately. So that's the episode for today, guys. This is going to air on a Friday, so we hope everybody is ready for the weekend. James puts it up here every day. Don't forget to go to our website, saltygingertalk.com. All of our podcast episodes are available there. All of our social media accounts are available there. And we publish a newsletter every weekday that you can subscribe to on our channel. Leave some comments on if you've used these phrases before or other phrases you might have used that would have worked for you to help de-escalate conflict. If you have go-to phrases or go-to approaches that you found successful, it'd be great to share those with the rest of the audience so they know what they have available to them. It's a good way to go. Also, it'd be great if you can like and subscribe to our podcast, whatever platform you consume it on. It's super helpful for the channel. It's super helpful for the growth of what we're doing. We're excited because we recorded our first interview, which will air on our Monday episode. So we're very excited about bringing that to you next week. So that's it. Everybody have a great weekend. Appreciate you guys checking out the channel. Hope to see you back next week. Again, our Monday episode is our first interview, so we're excited to release that on Monday, and we will see you guys then.